to give the floor to our association's chairperson, Mr. Ibrahim Öztop, let me introduce him briefly. Mr. Öztop is the chairman of the Turkish Capital Markets Association. He also serves as a CEO and board member of the Development and Investment Bank of Turkey. In addition, Mr. Öztop is a board member of Turkish Investment Initiative, member of Executive Committee of Small and Medium Enterprises Development Organization, as well as board member of the Banks Association of Turkey. Mr. Öztop, the floor is yours.
Ibrahim, mic is not on.
Yes, you're muted.
Sorry for that. Dear distinguished guests, it gives me a great honor to extend a warm welcome to all of you on behalf of Turkish Capital Markets Association. I am very delighted and excited to host you on today's event, Capital Markets Opportunities in Turkey. First, let me kindly introduce our association. Our organization is a non-profit self-regulatory professional organization regulated under the capital market law. We do currently have 222 members consisting of brokerage firms, asset management companies, banks, and investment trusts. Our main aim is to contribute to the development of the local capital markets. Within this significant objective, we establish rules and regulations, organize events and training courses, and conduct research activities. I believe today's webinar will be the first of the series of productive events, and we are very eager to organize pretty similar events to introduce the opportunities in the Dubai International Financial Center to the Turkish investment community. Today's event aims to give you an opportunity to give an expert insight into the Turkish economy and the capital markets. With this unique geopolitical location, dynamic and fast-growing economy, competitive labor force, as well as young population, Turkey offers numerous opportunities to investors. Turkey and your country have a strong relation based on mutual trust and respect, as illustrated by the recent agreements signed both countries in a wide areas of fields. In that regards, I believe that both countries' capital markets will benefit from the agreements signed between Borsa Istanbul and your exchange. Moreover, we are ambitious to strengthen Istanbul's strategic role of being a successful international financial center like Dubai. We hope the increased collaboration between two countries will also attract foreign investments towards our country. In this event, we expect to foster fruitful exchange and even closer cooperation. Now, I will leave the floor to valued panelists and reiterate my welcome to all guests and colleagues attending the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Now I have the pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Salmaan Jaffery, who is the Chief Business Development Officer of the DIFC. As such, he's a member of the management team and is responsible for overseeing the DIFC's client portfolio, as well as the DIFC's growth strategy. Salmaan has more than 25 years of professional experience, having worked in North America, Asia, and MENA with leadership roles at global firms such as Oliver Wyman, Citibank, American Express, and PwC. Salmaan, it's a pleasure to hand over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you, Elif.
Yes,
it's a real honor to be part of this conversation. And I want to thank everyone for taking the time to attend. I'll just maybe spend a minute or two and just provide some context here. Actually, the funnest thing that's missing in my CV or my background is the fact that Yilmaz and I were in graduate school together. It's a real treat, and in some ways, it makes sense for our economies to be connected for the same reasons that, you know, DIFC is a platform for economic growth, and the fact that, you know, you have two individuals here, Yilmaz and myself, who went to graduate school together, who are now in this forum having this conversation is a good way to describe what we do. And so just maybe 30 seconds of context, our objective has always been about driving economic growth and job creation in this region, which, as you know, parts of this region have a lot of hydrocarbon wealth and others do not. And part of that strategy has really been around providing the right structure and governance and mechanisms to make sure that financial services happen the right way. So to make a long story short, in these 18 years, we've managed to do a pretty good job of aggregating the right talent and capital, and we have a thriving center. Now, a key part of what's important for this region and for this economy is to make sure that, in addition to global trade, regional economic cooperation continues, because ultimately, for historical and cultural and economic reasons, the connectivities between economies in MIASA, whatever your acronym is super, super important. It is no coincidence that this kind of conversation comes on the back of a very, very encouraging rapprochement between our two economies. The recent visits by our heads of state, effectively, and so the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed, and of course your own president recently, sets a really, really good stage for cooperation. And so I guess let me conclude by saying that our objective is to be an open and transparent mechanism for yourselves and your stakeholders and your clients to be able to achieve your objectives. I think this should be the first of many ongoing conversations. So we build those relationships that are commercially viable for you. And if any of you need any kind of support whatsoever in terms of introductions, connectivity, please don't hesitate to contact us whenever you need it. And so without further ado, let me pass the floor back to you, Elif. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Salmaan, for your opening speech. It's an honor to have you here, and thank you for your cooperation. As you have said, this will be only the first webinar. Maybe the following months we will have another webinar. That time it will be about the capital markets of Dubai. So we will again have a webinar soon. I hope so. So I would like to introduce you now to Mrs. Pınar Uğuroğlu Delice, who is the Executive Vice President of BNPP Tech Investment, responsible for equity research and strategy. Mrs. Uğuroğlu Delice served as a Turkey non-financial equity analyst at the Bank of America. And she's also served as the Eastern Europe, Middle East, Africa real estate sector lead. So, Mrs. Delice, we are curious to hear from you an overview of Turkish economy and financial markets.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I hope my voice is sounding right. My current mandate is at BNPP Investments, and I'm responsible for equity research, and I'm also covering Turkish financials. So the presentation here is more like a sort of top-down view of the Turkish economy, which I'm going to share with you in a moment. For more detailed questions, for more insights, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us. So this is more like a top-down view of the Turkish economy and Turkish country, in fact. And I'm going to I'll try to share with you. Sorry, I had problems. So sorry of this.
Shall we help you?
It looks like it's not working right now.
Okay, so Süleyman Bey, could you please help?
Yeah, if you could share it for me, sorry.
Okay. Süleyman Bey, if you can help, we would appreciate. Thank you. Now, It's on the screen, Mrs. Uğuroğlu.
I think I have managed to read it both. Yeah. Okay, you can see it, right?
Yes.
So if we go to the next page, I don't know whether I can function it. So in the next page, you can see the presentation, right?
Yes, we can see.
Mm-hmm. Just a very top-down view, Turkey is both from a cultural mindset and from a geographical standing. It's in the midst of Europe and Asia. We're the 19th largest economy in the world in terms of purchasing power. We are the 11th largest economy. Turkey has a very vibrant and very big population. It's 83 million. It's large. Within the European standards, and it's quite young compared to the European standards as well. We have clustered our sort of competitive edges into two categories, really. We have structural competitive edges, and we have cyclical competitive edges, which I'm going to touch point each within the presentation. So in terms of the cyclical strengths of the Turkish economy, we have been quite adamant to keep the public balances in check. In fact, up until COVID, the primary balance of the Turkish economy has been positive, and Turkish public debt to GDP as a result has been quite relatively low compared to other emerging market countries. We have a healthy financial sector. Thanks to the restructuring of the banks post-2001, we have a solid financial sector backed by both public and private banks. The ROE in 2021 was above 15%, and this year in 2022, the ROE is expected to grow up until 30%. So we're looking at a doubling of the ROEs of the banks for this year. In terms of the capital adequacy, broader capital adequacy measure is around 18% as of last year. In terms of it's funny to say it's a competitive advantage, but we have an undervalued currency. Turkish lira, if you look at the nominal terms, if you look at it in the real terms, it has come down to quite low levels versus the reserve currencies of dollar or euro. In terms of the structural advantages of the economy of the country, in fact, we have a quite young population. We have a positive population growth, which nowadays you're not finding it in many EM countries. We have low household debt. Household debt to GDP is below 18% in Turkey versus 80%, 80% in the US, or 62% even in China, the largest emerging market. And this is a phrase that we'd like to use, especially in a post-COVID world when the supply chains are in the midst of relocating. We are very close to Europe. Our labor force is much cheaper than Europe, and our structural manufacturing backbone is strong. So we have every other sort of competitive dimension to replace the supply chain relocation in a post-COVID world. So if you go to the next page, I don't know if I can do it here. Mm-hmm. Turkey has a proven track record of growth. So the growth in a post-COVID world is not by chance, actually. In 2020, when most of the economies, especially, in fact, apart from China, all the economies recorded a negative growth in 2020. Turkey was the only one which managed to grow its economy in the midst of COVID. We have a strong track record of growth, and I would like to emphasize that Turkey is a real economy, meaning that we have obviously a very vibrant service industry, which makes up around 30%, more than 1/3 of the GDP. But we also have a manufacturing foothold, which makes around 30% of the GDP. So it's a diversified economy with many strong footholds in different sectors. In the next slide, I have mentioned the population, the younger nature of the population. Obviously, every year we're getting old, but we're still young as compared to our European neighbors and as compared to larger emerging markets such as, for instance, Brazil. I have mentioned in the previous slide manufacturing foothold or the manufacturing strength of the Turkish economy. And as you can see, we're the #1 textile manufacturer in Europe. We're #1 in the world. We're #3 in the white goods industry globally, and we're trying to grow globally as well. We're the #5 auto manufacturer in the Europe, and we're #7 in terms of the steel manufacturing globally. As I said, we are geographically very well placed, so you can reach out 26 trillion of economies within a 4-hour flight distance. So in terms of this supply chain relocation networks, Turkey is in an advantageous position. Obviously, we have our own problems, so it's not everything is not all rosy. Inflation is currently the main headache. This time around, though, inflation is the main headache for the global economies, for all of the global economies. If you look at the US core CPI, it is the highest level of the past 20 years. Same is true for Europe. So inflation has been a headache in a post-COVID world for every other country, and Turkey is not an exception in that regard. One thing is that our currency already reflects high inflation on unanchored inflation expectations as well. So the part of the currency depreciation can also be attributable to the high inflation problem of Turkey. But as I said, inflation and at least we can make it that part of the inflation worries is well accounted for and well reflected in the value of the currency. In the pre-COVID world, before 2020, we have been discussing about the large current account deficit of the Turkish economy. This is true. It has been hovering around 5 to 6% deficit to GDP, but post 2019, we've seen improvements in the current account deficit dynamics of the Turkish market. Hopefully this year, if the Russian-Ukraine war permits, we're looking for peak tourism revenues after 2 years of a slump due to COVID. So this year, next year, you're gonna see the tourism revenues helping our economy to patch the current account deficit. Obviously, when you're incurring a current account deficit, which means that you really need savings from the outside world. So that means that your economy is dependent on capital inflows. We would like to see heightened FDI inflow to the economy. Obviously, we have done that in the past with FDI inflows dominating portfolio inflows, but for some time the FDI inflow has been rather muted. So hopefully, and this will change going forward, but this is sort of can be a weakness of the economy, the capital inflow dependency. This is my last slide, and I would like to show you how we are more or less priced. From a CDS point of view, which is the main sort of risk hedging tool for the international investors like yourselves, Turkey's CDS level is above that of Russia, which is currently in an ongoing war. And given its rating, Turkey's CDS level is much above Brazil and South Africa. I have mentioned the public balances, healthy public balances in a post-COVID world. You're going to see public deficit to increase also in Turkey as a matter of fact. But even so, our public debt to GDP would be lower than Brazil and South Africa. I'm just pointing out these two countries because they are the ones which have higher sovereign credit ratings than Turkey itself. So we do have our vulnerabilities, but the markets are very well appreciating our vulnerabilities. I think the markets are currently missing appreciation appreciation of the opportunities that the Turkish market can offer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your insightful and very comprehensive presentation, Mrs. Uğuroğlu. Now we will hear about Mr. Gülhan Gülay, who is the Executive Vice President of Borsa İstanbul, which is the primary and only exchange. And there in all the stocks and derivatives, debt securities and precious metals are traded. Mr. Gülay, a trained banker, spent most of his career at Borsa İstanbul, where he held various positions in different departments, such as Precious Metals and Precious Stones Director, Business Development Director, and Manager in the Equity Market Directorate. Mr. Gülay, we are curious to hear from you about Borsa İstanbul markets.
Thank you, Mrs. Gülencer, and I would like to just greet all our guests with respect, and would like to thank them for joining us today. Well, today I would like to just give you some brief explanations about our market and our Borsa İstanbul, our exchange, and we are going to be together with my international department director, Mr. Mahmut Aydoğmuş. And if you would have any questions, you can just text us or ask your questions in the chat room. Well, I think you can just see my screen, and
we can see, yes.
All right, thank you very much. And so I'm starting. Ms. Pınar has just told us lots about the economy, but to just give you some summary of what she has just told, we can just say that our growth rate is for the last decade is in the average is 5.2, and with the volatility of 0.85. So we are supporting what she has just said. And also the young population, when you compare with the European Union and also the rest of the world, we are leading with 23% of the population. So we do really have a young population. So well, I will just give some details very quickly, just to be in line with my time, like 10 minutes. So I will just say a few words about our strategic location and room for growth. As you can see, the traded value of the Borsa İstanbul when compared with the GDP is very high. So that means that we are a liquid market, and also as you can see, this strategic location is very important for us, and we are like 4 hours flying distance from all the centers of the world in our geographic area. So the percentage of the listed companies among the Turkey's top industrial enterprises in 2020 is like 24% of the ISO 100 is in our Borsa İstanbul. So we have the room for growth. So last year with 52 IPOs, we have just risen to the 13th place in the WFE statistics. So it means that we are trying to have these companies to our market and just increase the capital in the market. So we have good PE ratios, which means that we are a cheap market still. And with the historical comparison, you can see that we have just been positively or negatively, you can say, differentiated from the MSCI Emerging Index. So this means that we do really have good PE ratios still investable. And when we have some metrics of the Turkish capital markets, well, you can see that we have like the total market securities of Turkey is like $215.79 billion. So the number of investors has just reached up to 28.56 million. And we have the accounts which are actively open in our securities houses is now 54.48 million. And the number of investors who is holding some securities is over 5 million, and the accounts with the balance is over 6.3 million. So most of the investors are located in the stocks business, which is $166 billion, and we have government debt securities, mutual funds, corporate bonds, and structured products investors still working actively in our markets. Well, we have a deep-rooted history and the integrated structure. I will just skip the history, but tell you the integrated structure which we have, which you can just accept as a one-stop shop. And when you come to Borsa Istanbul, you can just trade, and then you would just have the settlement and custody, and also the you can just have your accounts in our premises with the Merkezi Kayıt Istanbul, which is the central securities depository of Turkey. So also we can just go to some international standards, and we are internationally standardized companies as the Borsa Istanbul Group, and let's look at the retail investors and IPOs today. Well, as I said before, we have just reached up to 52 in the end of the year by 2021, and we have just risen up $2.448 million with the IPOs from the capital markets. And well, we have some statistics for our markets. The equity market is a very liquid market in the world, so mostly we are numbered as number one in the turnover ratio, the turnover velocity amongst the WFE figures, and the debt securities is also very high when compared with the general statistics in the world. And the single stock futures and precious metal futures are first in the world in terms of the contracts traded. The debt securities, as I said, is the 10th in the world. Well, we have stocks market, debt securities market, derivatives market, and precious metals and diamond markets in our company. When we have the figures, the average daily traded value in the equity market is around $3.5 billion, and the market capitalization is like $163 billion. We have some different financial securities traded in our market. These are the stocks, exchange traded funds, warrants, certificates, venture capital investment funds, real estate investment funds, and real estate certificates. And Borsa Istanbul offers this private market, which brings companies and investors together to buy and sell shares without going to public. And these are usually the startups, and the investors are the venture capitals. And when we come to the debt securities market, as we said before, it's in the 10th position in the world, and the repo and reverse repo market in the Borsa Istanbul debt securities market is around $6.5 billion, and the currency swap average daily traded value in US billions is 1.13. And we have some different markets in the debt securities market, like the outright purchase and sales market, repo, reverse repo, equity repo, and so on. And the derivatives market is a fast growing and some star market in our premises. The average daily traded value is around $2 billion, and the open interest in millions is 17.2. And we have some futures and options contracts. We have futures on all assets you can just imagine, the stocks, single stock, currency, precious metals, in 3 precious metals, energy, interest rate, foreign index, and also we have some options in the index, single stock, and currencies. And the precious metals and diamonds market, which I know that in Dubai it's a different exchange, but it used to be, it has been the first precious metals and diamonds market in the world, which started to be traded in 1998 as Istanbul Gold Exchange, but in 2013 it has been merged by the Borsa Istanbul, and the average daily traded value in the US billions is like 78.5 in the pandemic times, but in 2020 it was like 168 billion US dollars. So one of the other things that I can say about the precious metals and diamonds market is that it is one of the most active spot markets in the world, which, as you can imagine, there are only 4 or 5 spot markets in the gold business when it comes to the organized markets. So we use the Nasdaq technology. We have just finished our transformation in technology program in 2018. It just has been like 5 years time, and we use the same technology with Dubai exchanges, and we also just as you know help to Abu Dhabi exchange to complete their transformation, technology transformation, and we just help them in the testing business and also in the integration and migration topics. So our system also has some extra systems like the surveillance, index calculation, market data dissemination, and data warehouse, and also Takas Istanbul, which is the only settlement and clearing venue, also uses the same system together with us with the clearing, settlement, and risk management. Well, we are a reliable and investor-friendly market. With our public disclosure platform, you can find all the necessary information in our markets. And we just support the governance, corporate governance and sustainability in Borsa Istanbul. We have some indexes specially designed for sustainability and corporate governance. And we care a lot about the investor protection and safe trading. And we, as you know, we are leading the OIC Exchanges Forum, and we have some joint projects with the United Arab Emirates, like the fund on some special ones that has been created by the OIC Exchanges Forum. And what we do here is to lead the forum and just have the responsibility to realize some special projects here. And that's all for now, which I think I have been very respectful with my time. And so if you have any questions, I can just answer them now or later on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gulay, for this stimulating speech. Let's make the question, let's leave the questions at the end of the sessions. But if the audiences want to ask a question to you, and maybe they can forget it, they can write it now in the chat window. Now let's continue. We will hear now about stock brokerage services by Mr. Yılmaz Arısoy, who is the member of the Board of Auditors of the Turkish Capital Markets Association, and Chief Executive Officer and Board Member of Yapı Kredi Yatırım, the investment arm of Yapı Kredi Bank. Mr. Arısoy can look back at investment banking experiences in New York at Lehman Brothers, at UBS Investment Bank, Capital One Bank in Virginia, and he was the CFO at UniCredit Bank, Slovenia as well. Mr. Arısoy, the floor is yours. And there is still the, okay, the Yılmaz Arısoy's presentation is on the screen now. Mr. Arısoy, your voice is not coming. Mr. Arısoy, are you muted?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear now.
Great, thank you. Thanks a lot. So it's great honor to be here, also together with my old classmate, Salmaan, where we studied together some 20 plus years ago, and always kept in touch later on as well. And most recently, end of last year, we had the chance to visit Dubai with family, and was honored to visit him and his beautiful family in their home in Dubai. So great to see you again, and great to have the chance to help facilitate the business prospects among the two countries at the moment. So I will talk about the brokerage companies and brokerage services in Turkey. So typically Turkey has a quite established brokerage industry where we have the full set of services in equities, derivatives, FX trading, and quite detailed research activities, together with investment advisory and asset management and public offerings, basically both in the equities and fixed income markets. As also Mr. Gürsel mentioned on the Borsa Istanbul side, the technology upgrade of the Borsa Istanbul has helped a lot in terms of the liquidity of the markets. As you see, in the past years, we've seen significant increase in the equity trading volumes and derivatives trading volumes in the past. The Nasdaq's system adoption, the BISTEX system of the Borsa Istanbul helped significantly boost the liquidity and the volumes in the Borsa Istanbul. And the brokerage houses start offering prime services such as colocation services, ultra-low latency complex systems, and also market monitoring systems. And in addition to security financing to clients on the institutional side and also to the individual clients. In terms of the market capitalization in Turkish lira terms, we've seen significant increase. We have around 469 companies listed in the Istanbul Stock Exchange, and the number is increasing. Especially last year, we had seen some IPO activity as well, where we've seen some increase in these numbers. So we see a quite liquid stock exchange here, and it's also good value. When we look at the valuations, compared to the emerging market universe, compared to the PE multiples, basically, the Turkish market provides about 57% discount at the moment due to several reasons recently. But so also on the bank side, the financial index, the banking index is 60% lower than the emerging market index. So this provides significant opportunities. I think with the stabilization and going forward, there is quite big value attached to the Turkish stock markets, and we would like to emphasize that to all potential investors in regarding investment in the emerging markets. As I mentioned, similar to the well-developed markets, we've seen quite big IPOs in the past year. So there were 53 companies being listed in the Istanbul Stock Exchange, and there was quite big interest, especially from the individual investors as well on this site, and also from the support of the established asset management, the pension funds and the insurance funds and the other mutual funds helped a lot on this IPO activity last year. Turkey has a growing retail investor base. As of end of last year, we had 2.4 million individuals who has active equities at the Borsa Istanbul, and this number has increased a lot. Of course, the pandemic period helped also here, similar to other markets, especially in 2020 and 2021. We've seen quite big influx of individuals coming to the capital markets. The usage of digital channels, especially the mobile, is quite high in Turkey. Especially we have a quite young population and people are quite tech savvy and they like using the mobile and technology. So I mean, we have like quite big comfortability and easiness in using technology. So this also has helped a lot in terms of attracting the individuals. Also mentioned earlier, I mean, we've seen some decrease in the foreign investors' portfolio values. However, this was compensated quite well by the local side. So at the moment, at Borsa Istanbul, the foreign investment holdings are around 41%, and in the past, this had reached well above 60%. So this is also providing some opportunity, I would say, going forward, as we see more orientation into the Istanbul Stock Exchange from the foreign investor side. We must see some major increase on the valuations as well. So this is I would say an early opportunity from this point of view. And from a local savings point of view, if you look at the savings of the Turkish investors, still the big part of that goes to the banking savings. So big majority is the deposits, bank deposits, and also on the fixed income side. Equities are forming about 11%, 10 to 11% of the total savings. And compared to the Western markets, this has a huge growth possibility. Because still an under-penetrated area in terms of savings. So going forward, we expect that equities portion, as slightly increased over time, will increase more. And this is another reason why to try the capital markets and fix the equities markets of Turkey. From a foreign investor point of view, how could you come? There is a very easy market access and quite friendly approach, I would say. There are no restrictions on foreign portfolio investors to Turkish capital markets. There is no special tax for foreign investors. A foreign institutional or retail investor should use a brokerage house authorized by the Capital Markets Board of Turkey for investment activities. And to those are to acquire a tax ID from the local tax office, which could be also facilitated by the brokerage company. And you need to open an equity trading account, and there is no intraday collateral is needed for equities. And there are some short sell margin requirements. And in terms of derivatives at Borsa Istanbul, a similar process, and there's a 50% intraday margin requirement. And there is no counterparty risks, as all the assets stay at the central registry, which is the Takas Bank, basically. Also, it's a quite regulated area, and the counterparty risk is eliminated from that point of view. So anyone interested could basically contact with the brokerage houses. Here is a list of the based on the top 10 Istanbul Stock Exchange trading volumes, some brokerage houses, but the full list is available on our website, in the Turkish Capital Markets Association's website, in the members area. So you could contact, and we would be happy to facilitate any access to the Turkish capital markets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Arısoy. We appreciate your outstanding presentation, and I'm very happy, and I appreciate that every speaker is respecting their time. I'm now happy to introduce you to Mr. Burak Sezercan, who is the Chief Executive Officer in İş Asset Management, the asset management division of Turkish İş Bank. Prior to that, Mr. Sezercan also held various management positions, such as retail banking, marketing manager at İş Bank, inspector on the board of inspectors, risk management department unit manager, and strategy and corporate performance management manager. During his professional life, among others, he also served as board member at İş Real Estate Investment Corporation, İş Private Equity, and Anadolu Hayat Emeklilik, which is a private pension company. Mr. Sezercan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Elif Hanım. Again, I welcome all the participants. Thank you for visiting us on the digital channels. Hope we see you in person after this pandemic is over. I briefly want to talk about asset management services in Turkey, the statistics and the volumes of this business we are managing. As of January 31st, 2022, the total assets under management in this business is up to $49.4 billion US dollars. And the composition is threefold. The mutual funds are consisting of about $24.5 billion US dollars. The pension funds are consisting of $18.6 billion, and the rest is discretionary asset management DPMs, and that's about just over $6 billion. If you look at the historical track growth rate of this business in Turkey on a 10 to 12 year period, including all the instruments, mutual funds, pension funds, DPMs all together. On the mutual funds side, we see a 22.4 compounded annual growth rate over this period, and for the pension funds, we see just over 30% growth rate, and that is another fact, the fact that showing the growth opportunities, investment opportunities in Turkey, this steady and positive sloping growth. And if we look at the other dynamics of the sector in terms of companies and the asset management AUM by the company, we see by the end of, again, 2021, 52 asset management firms are active in the sector, licensed by the Capital Markets Board of Turkey, and the average assets per asset management is around $1 billion. And if you look at the number of investors investing in mutual funds, retail funds, we see the number of 3.2 million customers investing through mutual funds in Turkish asset management system. And again, if you look at the 5-year period, we see again a steady increase in growth rate of attention and growing pace of people, investors coming to this sector. On the other side, the second big pillar of the asset management system in Turkey is the pension system, and that is greatly sponsored and incentivized by the state through contribution funds. And we see much higher number of people investing in capital markets through pension funds and related instruments. One other aspect of exactly tool for investing in Turkish capital markets is the real estate funds and the venture capital investment funds, actually, which we are calling the alternative investment instruments through mutual funds. So real estate investment funds has reached around $1.1 billion, the whole asset under management. And on the venture capital side, on the venture capital investment funds, we see numbers going up to $1.3 billion, and that is increasing heavily for the last 2 to 3 years. And we believe that will see more higher numbers through the growth potential of Turkey. So we can see that, especially on the venture capital investment funds, the main areas of investments are mainly green energy, solar and wind energy investments. And we see e-commerce investments, fintech investments, and other internet and digital technology, disruptive technologies serving on those e-commerce markets. These are the main investment areas for the capital investment funds. For the opportunity side, I'd like to compare the assets funds managed in our business to the gross domestic product of Turkey. We see actually small numbers on this side, but if you compare it to the developed markets, we see again another aspect of growth potential with the growth opportunities of Turkey. We believe that we will be seeing high increases on these ratios, and our business will be growing with the growth rate of Turkey. Similar numbers, assets over GDP numbers are true for the pension fund system as well. So that's again another part of opportunity, chance of opportunity of growth in this asset management sector. And lastly, we can see that we can say that we are heavily investing in technologies. So we will be attracting more customers and investors to this sector through robo-advisory investment vehicles, and especially backed by artificial intelligence backed financial models, investment models. Again, alternative investment funds, namely the real estate investment funds and the venture capital investment funds, is a great tool for investing in Turkish growth opportunities. And lastly, maybe we can talk about the remote customer acquisition regulation released by the Capital Markets Board of Turkey this year in 2022. That's another aspect to reach to potential customers, especially local customers, that will create growth in asset management business. That was my last slide. Thank you very much for listening to me. Hope we will have more conversation in the Q&A session. And I'll leave it to Elif Hanım for the next presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sezercan. Thank you for your informative and very interesting presentation. Now, last but not least, Mr. Çağatay Yüce will give us an overview on taxation in Turkey. Mr. Yüce is the FSI tax partner in Deloitte. Mr. Yüce has been dealing with tax compliance as a Turkish international and local tax specialist, especially on tax litigation and controversy practice, as well as the taxation of financial services. Prior to joining Deloitte, he was the tax inspector at the Ministry of Finance. He also worked in the IT and risk analysis department of the Tax Inspectors Board. So, Mr. Yüce, I hand you over the floor.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen. I cannot find the PowerPoint file.
Maybe we can help.
Could you share it? Yeah.
Yes. Süleyman Bey, could you please show it on the screen? Could you please share it? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So next slide, please. So could we get to the second slide?
Süleyman Bey, could you please make the second slide?
Okay. Okay, let me continue from my own screen. So the taxation of capital market instruments is very easy actually in Turkey, because the tax regime is based on withholding tax, and the withholding tax is applied by the brokerage houses, banks, and intermediary companies. So the tax regime is regulated in the temporary Article 67 of the Income Tax Code, which temporary article, but it was firstly issued in 2006. So from that time, it is still in effect, and we expect it to remain in the Income Tax Code for a long time. So the article says that you can get 4 types of income from securities and capital market instruments. These could be capital gains, redemption income, periodical income like interest or others, except dividends, and income from securities lending transactions. So the brokerage house calculate the capital gains or redemption income or interest income of the investors. And
Mr. Yüce, the slide is on at the moment. Is it the slide that you're talking?
Yeah,
or shall we...
yeah. We can. Okay, thank you. So the intermediary bank or brokerage house or the custodian, they calculate the capital gains or other incomes of the taxpayer, of the investor, and then applies withholding tax, collect it, and transfer it to the tax office. So when calculating the income, the brokerage commissions and banking transaction taxes are also deducted from the taxable income. So this type of taxation is a final taxation for both resident individuals and non-residents. And also stamp duty exemption applies for the contracts related to these instruments, securities, and other capital market instruments. So the next slide, please. Okay. So which instruments are covered in the article, temporary Article 67? These are marketable securities and other capital market instruments. that are issued in Turkey and that have been listed by the Capital Market Board and or that are traded on the stock markets and or futures and options market in Borsa Istanbul, and all others that are issued by Treasury or by the other public entities, even if they have not been listed or even if they are not traded on Borsa Istanbul, except the Eurobonds, because the Eurobonds are issued outside Turkey. The custody services are not in Turkey, so it is not covered by temporary Article 67. But we can say that the Eurobond income for the portfolio investors outside Turkey is also not taxed. So in the next slide, we will see the withholding tax rates. So as you can see that non-resident capital stock companies and investment funds and trusts, for these types of taxpayers, all the securities and capital market income is taxed at 0% or it is not taxed. And since this is the final taxation, you don't have to give any declaration to tax authority, and we can say that you can get the return of your investment without any tax burden on it. The next slide, please. So in the beginning, we thought that the dividends were not covered by the temporary Article 67. So if you have an equity investment, when the equity distributes a cash to its shareholders or its investors, there is a 10% withholding tax on the dividend. So this is a local rate. If there is a double tax treaty between Turkey and the other country, the reduced rate may apply. So this 10% was actually 15% until the December 2021. So after about 15 years of 15%, it is now 10%, and it's a good progress for the foreign investors. And also, if the Turkish company includes the dividend into its equity, in this case, the shares issued to the shareholders are not taxed on dividend withholding tax. So this is my end of my presentation.